Hi, HR Nation. Welcome back to another episode of the HR Leaders Podcast, the show where we discuss the future of work with industry experts and HR executives on the world's leading global brands. Today, I'm joined by Sara Garringer, Vice President of HR at SeaWorld Parks and Entertainment. Welcome to the show, Sara. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you, Chris, for having me.
Thanks for joining us. Where are you joining me from? I suppose I should ask.
I am joining you from Williamsburg, Virginia, the original capital of the United States.
Is that a real fact? So we already got a
That's
fact
a
on
real
it.
fact. That is an original fact. It's a fun fact to mention.
There we go. See, for those that are listening, say you never learn anything. There you go. Before we go any further, tell everyone a little bit more about yourself personally and your journey to where we are today.
Sure. I have an interesting backstory, and I think it's really helped me be true to my career and my chosen path of human resources. I am one of 6 children. I was adopted by my stepdad. I'm a child of abuse, which kind of projected my path, not even knowing it, and helping people. So I've always had a kind of an intuition to help people along the way. And being a child of abuse has drove me to human resources and protecting people, and wanting to work for companies with missions bigger than myself. So starting that path as a young mother, a young single mother, gaining my degree and then working every HR job up the rung. I started as an HR assistant, and I told my director, I'm going to be a VP before I'm 40.
Yeah.
I turned 40 in October. I became a VP last October.
Oh, amazing. So, congratulations.
Yeah, it's been a really great journey. I actually wrote a book along with 13 other women that tells my entire story.
What's that called?
Of how I got there.
What's the book called?
It's called A Seat at the Table.
Amazing.
How other women got their seat at the table.
Incredible.
And it's truly, it was a great read, and it was a great time writing that. And I'm about to take the same journey with the same ladies, writing Sister Leaders, how we empower women in our seats. So Incredible. It's going to be another great adventure.
There's so much to unpack there as well. Like when did you first then discover? You mentioned obviously your background, but when did you discover HR? Because I think even many years ago it wasn't even called HR. When did that first?
It was called personnel or reception.
yeah, exactly. Back then.
So 2 things. My first job at 14, I had a very intense boss, and at 14, you don't really know anything about the
No,
work.
You're 14. You shouldn't know everything.
$5 an hour.
Yeah.
And from 14 to 20, I worked for this employer, and I saw things that I just didn't understand, like yelling and mistreatment, not paying people correctly. That is what truly drove me to say, who's the person that helps employees, because they didn't have HR. It was a sole proprietor, so which happens to a lot of small businesses. It's the owner that is the HR person. And then when I went into school for my degree, I was originally finance and accounting, but numbers are lonely. They don't talk.
That doesn't seem aligned with your why and your purpose at all. It doesn't seem you at all. And I've only known you for the last 5 minutes. It doesn't seem you at all. Yeah.
They don't talk back. So I went to my advisor and I was like, isn't there somebody who helps people in an organization? What's that called? And she said, human resources, Sarah, that might be what you're born to do. And sure enough, every job I've had has just, the door is naturally open to the next job, to the next level, to the next adventure. And I 100% put that to God leading me throughout my career and to help people. It's been an amazing ride so far.
So far, it's only just starting. How did you? I grew up in a single parent family. My mum brought up 4 kids on her own, which I don't even understand. As a dad now, I could barely raise 1 kid, so I don't understand how people do it on their own.
3.
Yeah, you got 3. How did you balance the work life and your career trajectory whilst being a single parent?
Yeah, there's a lot of spinning plates, that's for sure. As a single parent, because you've got the needs of the employer, and in HR, that includes the need of however many employees. So right now I have 4,000 employees and I have 3 kids. So you have to balance all of that. The biggest thing I learned while raising 3 kids in career is saying no when you can't do it. That is the biggest challenge, I think, for any parent, along with any single mother, because you don't want to say no, but you have to say no and you have to draw the boundaries. And if an employer doesn't accept that, they're not the right employer for you. That's truly what I've learned, and being able to say no, and I cannot do that. I've been fortunate to have really great people in my life, mentors that got it, that
Yeah.
really got it. And being human in that moment, every person is a human being first, and everybody experiences life at some point, shows up flat tire on your way into work.
Mm-hmm.
Someone, identity theft, or they have someone in the hospital, or they get sick. I mean, people experience life every day, and that understanding that and being able to say no, I think, are 2 big factors in my life that have helped me balance. It has been challenging. There have been times where I did have to miss a baseball game, or
Yeah, it's a tough one.
but I never missed the big moments, which is important.
Mm-hmm. Because
It's really important.
you can do that work, but you can't get those moments back.
No, no, and I'm kind of a workaholic, so it's really hard for me to say no.
Yeah.
But I've had to learn to say no.
Have you ever experienced bias from your colleagues that perhaps you've been overlooked for particular projects or things because, you're a single parent, 3 kids, we perhaps thought they were trying to do you a favor, whereas in reality,
yes.
Yeah.
Oh yes, that has definitely happened. And when confronted in those situations, if you can confront anything head on and with honesty and transparency, most of those things can be rerouted to a resolution.
Give me an
It's when
example. Give us an
don't
example.
address it.
Yeah, because
that
it becomes an
bigger.
issue. Yeah. Give us an example. Give me an example of something that you've kind of faced head on, as opposed to letting it fester, let's say.
Sure. So I actually had this bias. I had just started at Colonial Williamsburg, my former employer, and I was one of 4 generalists, all females. I was the only single mother. Others had children in college, and then one had just recently had her newborn daughter, and she was married. And I had gone to our director for a flexible schedule. So I flexed my hours. And when you're salaried, you're not paid by the hour. So as long as you get the work done, it shouldn't have been a problem. And Colonial Williamsburg was always big about promoting a flexible work-life balance. So I went to the director and said, I'd like to work these hours. I am a single parent. Is this okay? He cleared it. Where the communication funnel got blocked is we didn't communicate it out to the rest of the team. So the team only saw me coming and going, which appeared to be whenever I wanted.
Because that's how that's their perception. Yeah.
All right. And you have this brand new mom who's back from maternity leave. And as a parent, when you have that baby, you have a hard time leaving.
Of course.
And she was seeing that. And I got wins from another colleague that says, hey, we're not sure what's going on. I hope you're okay. But this is really starting to become burdensome for the team. So I just went and talked to each of the team members individually and said, hey, I did ask for a flexible work schedule. This is what I'm doing. If I'm not doing anything that you need help with, or if I'm missing something, let me know. That helped them tremendously. After I did that, they're like, we get it. And then it actually encouraged, Crystal was her name, to go and ask for the time off.
Yeah, because you're setting a good example, yeah.
And she got it.
Amazing.
She got it. And she began to telecommute and work a flexible schedule as well. So yeah, the crucial conversations are so important. You cannot avoid them, though. You have to kind of have the difficult moment, the awkward moment, and then once you get through that moment, it usually opens up a lot of barriers that people hold on to.
Yeah, it just shows the importance of communication, right? Because I'm sure your boss or your manager didn't intend for that,
No,
of
he was
course.
incredible.
So,
So no, he
yeah,
hadn't realized it
but
either.
the unintended
I don't even know
consequence.
if he knows that I had that conversation, honestly.
But again, it's good that you dealt with it. Like you said, you kind of faced it head on rather than letting it become something more.
Yep.
And it's good that your colleague came to you and said, look, this is how we're feeling.
Yep.
So that's great outcome.
There were others that didn't have such a great outcome.
Yeah.
There's always that some people that you just, unfortunately, you don't mesh with or not meant to be with. But it doesn't mean they're bad people. It just means you don't have the chemistry.
You mentioned also your abuse growing up. How has that played a role in or held you back, in your career?
Those moments of squaring up with people and holding a line define who you are as a leader later. And what I'm learning as a leader of a much bigger team than I've ever led is those moments that you had come back in front of you as your employee. And so you remember them. So it's really helped grow who I am as a leader and caused me, I feel, to be a more empathetic and compassionate leader. Because meeting people's personal needs at work is a thing. And if a leader doesn't meet those needs, they'll go to another employer who will. So every time I had a crucial moment in my career, whether it's standing up to the CEO, I've done that a couple times. And as a nobody, not even a leader, but as the employee holding the line or standing in front of someone who's come to you and trusted you with a complaint and protected them at all costs. Those little moments, particularly as an HR professional, when you hold that line, create who you are later. And my team in a post-COVID world has gone through so much in the 7 months that I've been here with SeaWorld. And every time they come through my door, I'm like, wow, what would you do? Remember who you were, because the shoe was on the other foot and now I'm the leader. So coaching them through that and making sure that they have the support they need. Had I not had all of those moments in my past positions, I don't think I would be a successful leader now.
Yeah. It's interesting, right? Because during those moments, the strength that comes out of that. And I think now more than ever, we need leaders that can lead with empathy and that can be vulnerable as well and show our employees that it's okay not to be okay.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Which is not how I was managed when earlier in my, you would never talk about things like that, right? You'd never show vulnerability. It's kind of almost like the opposite. And in fact, it makes people rally around you and is makes you even stronger. It's the opposite of what of what you think. Because I certainly have that fear, and I'm sure everyone at some point has been fearful of being vulnerable in case what people may think, etc. But it's that adversity that you went through is now probably become one of your biggest strengths to be able to connect with people in a whole different way.
Oh yes, because I'm not the smartest person on my team. I have a couple of really, really, truly brilliant people, brilliant HR people on my team. But I do think having that strong emotional intelligence, having gone through those things in my career, has allowed me to be the leader this team needs.
Yeah.
One of my senior managers tells me I'm the North Star. I'm telling them where we're going, but I rely on the entire team of how we're going to get there.
Oh, that's me too. That's every leader should be. That's but sometimes I have the opposite effect where I spend too much time in the business and on the business. That's a hard balance to get right.
It is really a hard balance. Such a hard balance. It's interesting. Sheryl Sandberg's, the COO of Facebook, her book Lean In talks about all of this. And when I read that, it just flew off the pages to me, because she talks about, in particular, women in leadership roles who sometimes tone down their emotion, and because they think it's a weakness. It's a weakness.
Yeah.
And
you're just leading. You're just leading with you're so emotional.
She talks about showing that emotion at work and leaning in for
Mm-hmm.
her title, to your emotion at work, and really get creating those relationships and connections. I think the most powerful thing a leader ever told me was, people won't remember what you do for them, but they always remember how you make them feel.
Yeah, 100%.
Always.
Good or bad.
Good or bad.
Yeah, good
And
or
I
bad.
don't always get it perfect. Like, my team has seen me in vulnerable situations. I recently had surgery and had to go out. And I was like, oh, I'll be back in a couple of days. No, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't make it back in until a week later. But they rallied and held down, the office while I was out, but allowing them to see that I needed time made it a safe space for them to say, hey, I think I might need some time too, whatever the situation is. So allowing your team to see that human side of you, I think, makes for a more open, transparent work environment that creates high productivity.
You're right, because that's where people go above and beyond.
Yes.
It's when they when they truly care. Like, there's been times where I've not been to some of our events that we do here, or some been in because my mental health, I've been struggling, and I always trust that the team's going to be there and help out, and it's not because they have to, because they actually generally care, and vice versa. And I would hope that they would also come to me if they felt the same way, as well. So when you were out and you were sick, they wanted to be there for you and go above and beyond to make sure.
And they did. And they kept telling me, get offline.
Stop working.
Stop touching the computer.
You sound like one of my colleagues, James. He's in the background. He can hear me saying this. Well, I often have to tell him to stop working. It's a strange thing to do as a leader, to say to one of your employees, can you just stop working and just enjoy
my gosh, yes. This team is always staying late, and I keep telling them, it's always going to be this busy. This is especially after COVID, when everybody's ready to get out, and we have this major hiring crisis in the United States right now. I mean, this is it. It's not changing. So
it's going to be there tomorrow. Yeah, it's going to be there tomorrow. There's always something else to be done. You can wait. There's always tomorrow. Don't worry about it.
Exactly.
Yeah. What was it that attracted you to this role and this organization?
Yeah, so I wasn't looking, and it's kind of interesting. All of my roles that have been successful, I had never really looked for. They found me. I met with Sherry Nito, our chief HR officer of SeaWorld, and she was so excited about SeaWorld and the mission of conservation that's been changed over the last 2 years for SeaWorld, and excited about theme parks and what they do for people. And she was so excited through the interview that I went from, I don't really want this job, to, oh my gosh, I want to work here within 2 hours. I don't know how she did that, but she did. And fun fact, they didn't hire me at first. They hired another guy.
No way. That's all right. It was meant to be, though. It happened. She
called me back like 8 weeks later, and she's like, so I want to hire you. I was thrilled. I was very scared. This is a big role. It's a lot of responsibility, but I don't think it's worth it if you don't have a little challenge to have that.
That's a good thing, right? You got to lean into it.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
I think if it's the opposite and you're not challenging yourself, then what's the point? If you're going to leave a role and move into another company, you should be slightly scared. You should be, because that's exciting, right? You got to lean into it, as well. Like, seeking discomfort is where the magic happens, right?
Yes,
and the growth.
And I was so nervous coming in my first day. So I'm a tall lady. I'm about 5'11", and my whole career I've worn heels. Like, my whole career.
So you're 6 foot in heels. You're 6 foot in heels.
I wore flats in my first day.
You wore flats because you didn't want to intimidate anyone.
I didn't want to make a bad impression. But I met the team here, and it was like a match made in heaven. They are great. I was told they may not be the most productive team, and I may have to make some hard choices. And I did face a hard choice where we had to part ways with an employee, but everybody else has been just phenomenal.
That's good that you knew that coming in. They were very transparent with you coming into it. That you knew that. That's great.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And there's so much change, good change, but it's a different way. So it's SeaWorld has had this transition of pen and paper to high tech, and we're somewhere right in the middle. And making that transition with the team that's only done it one way has been really interesting. But they've done a fantastic job and have embraced the new,
So
that
you're
discomfort that
upskilling,
you were just talking
so
about.
you're upskilling your own team whilst kind of going through this
Yes,
digital transformation piece
yes, and
as well.
it's been a ride, and we've had so much fun. We laugh all the time. Um, we've got people around our office, and every day at 2 o'clock, they say, "Yep, it must be 2 o'clock. Sarah and her team are laughing again," because we've just come off of lunch and we're like trying to get revamped. But we have a good time.
You
We
gotta
have
have
a
a good
great
time.
time.
If you're gonna spend more than half your life somewhere, you would hope you'd have some good time, right?
Yeah, and
As I
we
said,
sell fun for a living, so
exactly. Are you based on site, like where actually, like, are you actually at a resort?
oh yeah, the park is right outside my window.
So the park is at the actual park. That's
Yeah,
crazy. So you can just go
yeah.
for a walk around at lunchtime around the park.
Yeah,
Oh
and
my
we're
god.
we're trying to get our team to be more in the park, to be on boots on the ground with our managers, to be that strategic human resources partner, so that when they come to us and they say, yeah, during an evac on Griffin, which is a roller coaster, which
I
is a
didn't know
whole
you.
thing.
I didn't even realize you even had roller coasters. So this is.
Oh yeah,
So
we have
you have
everything.
everything now.
Um,
Okay.
you understand what they mean when they have to do an evac, and that's when like the carts get stuck and you have to deboard the passengers up from the very top.
Oh
Yeah,
my god.
that's a whole thing. But being able to
Just to be clear
understand
for
people,
listeners, that very, very rarely happens, right? Just for everyone listening.
yes, it does.
It's
It very rarely
yeah,
happens,
yeah,
but this team is the best at it when it does happen.
yeah. I think
They get them off safely.
yeah, I've been to we have Fort Park and Chesterton and other ones like that in the UK, and I was there one time where that happened once, as well.
Yeah.
I was literally just about
And
to get on there.
it's kind of funny because when you're doing an evac, you get to see behind the scenes how things work. So it's kind of, you're getting, and we sell tours like that to folks that want to see behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So, there is a win if you ever have to be evacuated.
You get to see all the interesting ins and outs of how it's made.
Yeah.
What would you say is looking back on your career, obviously it's just begun really. What would you say? What's a moment that you're most proud of that stands out to you?
Part of HR is doing the really fun stuff like, oh, I get to hire you, right? You get a job, or you're being promoted, or you're getting a raise, or helping someone through with a new baby or adopting. But the other side of HR is a little rough. It's terminations or helping someone through a passing of a loved one. We're there. We have to process the life insurance. So I think the most proud I've ever been is with my employer out of Washington, D.C. It was the District of Columbia Bar. My director, we had a couple of deaths on property, like back to back, that were really, really rough. And I think I'm most proud of how that team and I worked to help the employees on site cope with someone dying on site, providing the counseling and being there as a support system that an employer don't really typically think through that. They do now, but back then they didn't. This is like 2009, 2010. They didn't really. It was like right there on the verge of being the next thing, like employee assistance programs. They like came to life in 2015.
And now,
but,
given what's happened, they're now excelled 10x given the last year.
Right.
Yeah.
But this is when it didn't exist. And putting that out there for employees, that's a truly difficult thing that we did successfully.
Mm-hmm. So what was it?
That's not an easy thing.
Did you partner with an external company then to signpost?
We did. When they come on site, there's only a couple of them. So you're arranging all of the meetings, but when you're there,
you're in all of the meetings.
Yes.
So
yes, and you're there and you're seeing the emotion. This employee had been there 20 plus years and died without notice. It was very jarring for the culture. So to be there for them and then months later still have people comment how well we did and how thankful they were, that was really rewarding.
What advice would you give to your colleagues that are listening that may, hopefully they don't ever have to go through that, but if they do, what advice would you give to them?
Don't approach it as an HR person, approach it as a human being. The H comes before the R for a reason, because people are their most human selves when tragedy is around them. And it's either just really sad, or you get the angry side of benefits don't happen as smoothly as they can. I mean, that is really the most pivotal time in a person's life for them. Maybe not for you, but for them. Remember that. Remember the human side in those moments and give grace.
Mm-hmm. Did you have to communicate that to their family?
Sometimes. And sometimes
Wow,
the
that is a lot of
spouse will think
responsibility. There's
that
a lot of
life insurance is
responsibility.
paid.
So these are the things
That's
that
the side of HR
no one
people
talks
talk
about.
No one talks about it.
And I'm sure no amount of training or coaching or anything can really prepare you.
No, that's why I say
moment.
Step out of your HR and put your human hat on and treat them how you would want to be treated in that moment.
Yeah.
If it was your loved one.
How did you deal with it personally? Let's not forget that.
Oh, so I tend to be very faithful. I pray a lot. And I really try to stand by, treat others how you want to be treated. I had at the time a really, really great boss, Cynthia Howell from the DC bar, that she carried a lot of it. And so when I had moments where I was upset, because I had to pack the employee's cubicle.
Oh, that must have been
package all of that.
And seeing like the photos of their family and seeing the personal items.
Yes.
And oh man.
And she would allow me to come into her office and have those moments of emotion. So how I got through it, I pray. And then I had a boss that got it. She allowed you to be human and to understand, keep it here so that when we have to talk to the family and present things, or, if we're out in the population with the employees, keeping it together for them.
Yeah. And I can
people often forget HR people are people too.
No, that's why I asked you, is like, who does HR turn to? Because a lot of the time they are the people that that people turn to. But if you're in HR, then who does HR turn to? We saw that. Yeah, I know. Yeah. And the answer is each other most of the time. And especially during the last 15 months, that's that's something we've tried to help with.
Having a support system at home is always,
of course,
really, because sometimes in HR you can't shake it off the door, right? When you leave, you take it home a little bit, particularly if you have a termination and maybe you really liked the individual and you just.
I've been there. Yeah, it's rough.
Oh, it's terrible.
That's even worse, isn't it? When you actually are really good friends or like get on really well.
But I feel, as an HR person, when you go into those moments, the moments no one really talks about, go in with the H first. Meet it, look them in the eye, explain to them what is happening, give the resources for them. So when they're walking out of the door, they have them in their hands, which may include unemployment information, which may include like, here's legal help for you. It doesn't bode well sometimes for the company, but in my experience, when you provide everything the employee who's leaving you what they need, they tend to be thankful and grateful for it. And
maybe not at the time, but once it,
it's funny. When I first got here, we actually had a termination my first week here, and the person came in, they were out, and my whole team was like, that's it. It was 2 minutes, because the person knew what they know. They know.
Sometimes they know. Yeah, you're right. Sometimes it's easy when it's those ones, but when it's sometimes there's other it's always a case by case basis.
It's a conversation. You keep very calm if necessary. In light of what happened in San Jose this past week. Here, there was an employer shooting.
Was there?
In California.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, like 9 people died. It's been heavy on my mind, particularly in the climate that America is in right now,
Mm-hmm.
United States citizen right now. And I truly believe somebody missed something for that individual. Like, what's going
You mean there
on?
were signs along the way if someone actually
They
just
were
sat down
signed
and just had a
something.
conversation,
Yeah.
like
And if an
the whole "how are
employer's
you doing," but and it's okay not to be okay conversation probably would have helped that
and if you
individual.
have a culture where people really mean that and they look at you, they smile, they're interacting, they're trying, that can help all of those things. And it helps with difficult conversations such as terms. You have a culture that truly cares about their employees, those kinds of things are limited
Mm-hmm.
and few and far between.
Are you
But
worried about that as we move more and more technology focused, more data driven? Are you worried that we're going to lose those softer skills, that side of?
yeah, if you don't have the right leaders in place, yes, you can that's absolutely a factor. And the more that we see, it's even more imperative for employers to get the right benefits in place, to have the right leaders and the right culture. My CHRO, Sherry Nadeau, has done a fantastic job of driving resources for our employees. So the employee assistance programs that are all the rage, we opened it up to our part-time ambassadors here so that they have resources, particularly in a time of COVID when we're seeing suicide rates up, homeless rates are up, because 2020 the world stood still and not everybody had a job to get the unemployment package or the stimulus
Well,
checks.
especially when you got such a huge percentage of people living paycheck to paycheck.
Yes,
It
yes.
just
So
takes
I
one
feel like
paycheck they
SeaWorld's
missed.
done a good job of that, like
Mm.
opening up things to our part-time folks so that they have the resources and they know HR is here if they need something. Like, we talk about this on our leadership calls all the time. What are we doing? What can we do more of? We do gate giveaways every Friday, which gives out food. We're trying to maybe get a free meal plan in for our employees, so at least they're getting a meal while they're here at our parks. Free drinks, that kind of thing. All of those little
They
things,
add up, yeah.
they add up to make
And
a
it may be little to
culture of
you, but to
caring.
someone else who needs it, it's huge. So it may be
It's
something, yeah,
huge.
something that may be little to the
Yeah.
average person. That one person knew that having those lunches every day of the week, perhaps if you get that in place, that normally would cost, that adds up over the month.
Yes. Yep. So we're
Um,
looking at all of that, and she's big on that, and it's a joy to work for someone who gets that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I can already see why you've gelled so well with your and I can see how well it aligns with your passions and who you are and what you stand for, as well. Even, again, only the fact that we've only been speaking to 40 minutes, it stands out really clearly, a lot along the way. We kind of mentioned already. I said the moment you're most proud of. Does that also align similarly? If I ask you the opposite question of the biggest hurdle you've had to overcome in your career?
Yes. Okay. So at Colonial Williamsburg, I was over the hospitality group, which was 6 hotels and 19 food and beverage outlets. 70% of the employee population was under union. And there was a union rep that I did not get along well with. And every meeting I would go in and I'd say, I'm going to be nice. I'm not going to let her to get my back up. I'm going to be polite. We're going to work together every meeting. And almost every meeting would end horribly, to the point that when employees who were considered problem employees would get to a termination, it would be a game of they're going to stay fired because this union rep is going to learn.
Wow.
When you get into a mode of that and you forget that they're people, and God let me know it. He showed up and he was like, this is not this is not who you are. This is not who I want you to be. And I had hard lessons where I was brought into my director and, did you say that? Were you this unkind? And oh yes, I had those moments. But it was a light shining on, hey, you can't allow other people to make you into something you are not. You have to stand your ground. And you have to be the leader. And you have to be the one to lead. And you have to be the one to lead. And you have to be the one to lead. And you have to be the one to lead. And you have to be the one to lead. And you have to be the one to lead. And you have to be the one to lead. And you have to be the one to lead. And you have to be the one to lead. And you have to be the one to lead. And you have to be the one to lead. And you have to be the one to lead. And you have to be the one to lead. And you have to be the one to lead. And you have to be the one to lead. And you have to be the one to lead. And you have to be the one to lead. And you have to be the one to lead. And you have to be the one to lead. And you have to be the one to lead. And you have to be the one to lead. And you have to be the one to lead. And you have to be the one to lead. And you have to be the one to lead. And you have to be the one to lead. And you have to be the one to lead. And you have to be the one to lead. And you have to be the one to lead. And you have to be the one to lead. And you have to be the one to lead. And you have to be the one to lead. And you have to be the one to lead And you have to remember that HR is always about people. Even when you're looking at company data down to the revenue, down to the bottom line, people got those numbers for the company. People drive profit, not the other way around. And people are human beings with lives and needs. And no matter what they do in their worst moment does not define them. And that's how I would want to be treated. But yes, I have had moments with that union rep that I am not proud of.
Did you ever solve it? How did it end? What's the
Yeah, actually we did. COVID. COVID came in and scared people. Like some of them scared them straight. My last meeting with her, she's like, I'm gonna retire. I was like, oh, I didn't see that coming. Part of me was like, yay. The other part was like, oh, wow. Because she was so passionate about her cause. And she fought for people, even when she was wrong. She fought for them, thinking she was really just doing what she was supposed to be doing.
So everything she was doing was with good intentions, right?
Yes. So we had a great moment. She says, she had been there 30 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And she said, out of all of the HR reps, I know we've had our rows, but Sarah, it was a pleasure working with you, and you have high character, and I know we didn't always get along.
It was that
like,
mutual.
That's an understatement.
It's probably that mutual respect that she understood that you're standing up for what you believe in, and she is. So, like, even though that was one of the big part of the problems, there was that mutual respect there that she understands that you standing by your values and what you believe in.
It floored me. I didn't see that coming. I was like, oh, well, I hope. And she loved her grandkids. I was like, well, enjoy your grandkids.
Yeah. I think you got to go. Thanks for being vulnerable. You kind of got to go through those things in your career, right? Where you learn the hard way, right?
Oh yes.
there's no other, and that's the thing. You can't be afraid of that because it's going to happen. And you'll be better off for it. It doesn't feel good at the time, obviously, as well, or getting a grilling by your boss. And I've definitely been there as well. I'm just thinking of a particular moment right now where I was like going to my boss with all these problems. They're like, and she just kind of screamed at me and said, "If you're not coming to me with solutions, don't come back to the office." As well. But yeah, you gotta just have those moments which you just stay with you, right? And obviously that one stood with you.
That's so true.
Before I let you go, I want to jump into our quick fire round. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, but you have no longer than 30 seconds to give us some amazing answers.
Oh, okay.
Are you ready? What was the number one thing that was holding you back from becoming a VP of HR, a HR leader at the senior level?
Oh, male leadership.
Ooh, what do you mean by that?
It was a boys' club.
Oh, as in literally lack of opportunity?
Oh, yes, lack of opportunity.
Wow, so you always strive for it, but it's kind of just tough to break through.
It has been tough to break through that, yes.
Yeah. Would you say that's just based on the particular companies that you worked at?
No, I think it's something that's rarely really talked about. Mm-hmm. Like you hear about it, but you don't really talk about it. It's in every company.
Yeah. Well, good for people to hear it as well. Well, what's the best piece of business advice you've received in your career?
Take care of the people. The people will take care of the rest.
Definitely. How would your kids describe what you do for a living?
Oh my gosh! Have you ever seen The Office? The Office?
They think you work at The Office. That would be hilarious.
They always compare me to that, and they watch it and they make fun of me because Toby's always being beaten up. Counselor and a lawyer and a mom and a principal. That's kind of how they see
it all mixed, all mixed together. That's hilarious, by the way. Kind of discussed it earlier, kind of briefly, but what do you do to take care of your own mental health and well-being?
I pray. I am very big in my faith to God, and I take walks in the morning. They're very, very helpful for setting the day.
Yeah, just that kind of set the mind, right? You don't want to jump straight in. You don't want to start your day straight in the deep end.
Nope.
As well. I've started to. I wish I could say I'm great. I'm trying to get better, but I rather than jumping out of bed and going straight to work, it's nice to go to the gym, for example, like I did this morning, and then jump into the work after. Because otherwise you just roll out of bed and you look at your emails, you look at your calendar, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I've got so much work to do. It's just not a great way to start your day, is it?
It's not. Take time for yourself.
Yeah. What's one thing about the business you're working in now that you're most excited about? What are you most excited about with this new role?
Abu Dhabi.
Are you going out there? Are they flying you out to Dubai to?
No. But if she says you're gonna go, I will totally go. I am most excited about the opportunity to grow into this role and become the best parks in SeaWorld in every way, profit, people, every way.
Amazing. Well, it sounds like you're in the right place from what I understand over our conversation. I'm super excited for you, and thank you so much for sharing and being vulnerable as well. It means a lot, and
whatever I can do to help somebody else, absolutely.
Yeah, we appreciate that. And before I let you go, if there's one parting piece of advice, what would that be? And then where can people connect with you if they want to say hello, reach out and connect?
Sure. So for all of the HR people out there, there's an H in front of the R. Use the H. It'll never fail you. Ever. Ever. I know that. For all the non-HR people, feel sorry for your HR people. We have a lot going on.
Or perhaps take some initiative yourself and don't always have to go to HR. I think that's what we want to do, right? We want to empower our leaders and our managers so with the skills and resources. They don't have to turn to HR.
They don't.
Not in every case as well.
And I'm pretty reachable. They can reach me at linkedin.com at Sara Garringer. I'm kind of everywhere. So.
Amazing.
Well, I try to be reading things, speaking. I try to be.
Fantastic.
Happy to connect.
Well, no, I love the energy. It was great connecting with you as well. And I definitely have to come visit soon because I can't believe I haven't been yet. So I have to make that happen when
definitely have to go.
When things open up and we can fly over. Definitely going to do that. But apart from that, enjoy the rest of the day, and I look forward to chatting to you soon. Okay.
You too, Chris. You too. Have a great day.
See you later. It was a pleasure.